Before we begin, two messages. What mobile platform do companies like eBay, NBC Universal, the Los Angeles Times, Razorfish, and PayPal use to build their cross-platform native applications? Titanium by Appcelerator. They aren't alone. There are now over 25,000 apps deployed by Appcelerator, which has been called the Rosetta Stone of app development. And you can start now for free. Just go to www.appcelerator.com for more information. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Hello everybody, welcome to Untether.tv. This is the place you come to, I got an excited guy here, Mike. It's the place you come to hear from the guys who are shaping and the girls who are shaping the mobile industry, the people who are actually stepping out beyond that comfort zone to build the things that we're going to use either tomorrow or the next day or 3 or 10 or 15 years from now. And I really appreciate you coming down. Who knows where it's going to go, says Mike. And as you can see, I've got Mike Schneider here with me. Mike, thanks for coming to do this. Mike actually runs a digital incubator for Allen and Gerritsen out of Boston. And he's also the author, and this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but we're also going to talk about his fabulous book, which is something that everybody who is in the industry, who should be in the industry, should get. It's location-based marketing for dummies. And yes, I don't think it's geared towards dummies, but we're going to get into this. Not only why he wrote the book, but lessons he's learned from reading the book, as well as some of his thoughts on this industry that he's currently obsessed with, Mike. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, obsession is a good word.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Mike. I really appreciate you coming on to tell this story. Really appreciate you being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me. Thanks very much.
So Mike is also Schneidermike on Twitter. And I've heard of people who take mashups of their names and put it in a different way, like Amber MacArthur, who I'm a big fan of, goes with Amber Mac now.
Yep.
Schneidermike was just Mike Schneider. Was it taken, and now you're just known as Schneidermike?
Mike Schneider was taken by just about everybody. So basically, he's a newscaster. He is editor of Variety magazine. He is the Poker King of Wisconsin is Mike Schneider. There's a professional poker player, and probably most importantly, and my favorite Mike Schneider is the Tony Hawk of fingerboarding. He's about 16 years old now, and he makes awesome videos. He's got a great YouTube channel, and I can't own that. I can't own Mike Schneider in SEO. So I was actually talking to a guy you might have heard of named Gary Vaynerchuk, and I was asking him, hey, should I just change everything to Schneidermike? And he said, yep. So I make it one word. It's like Ronaldinho or Kaká.
Schneidermike. And it's Gary's fault.
Well, he inspired it for sure.
I think that's
personal branding. Yeah,
it is. I mean, he's the guy that goes by Gary V, though, right? So
right. Gary Vaynerchuk.
Exactly. Well, the reason I do this and the reason I do the things that I do are because of that guy. And then he gets out of the whole, daily wine library thing, and it kills my dreams. I say, thanks, Gary Vaynerchuk. Really appreciate that. We are here to talk about the book, but I really want to get a sense of, first of all, I'm going to give you a little bit of chance to talk about what you do at Allen Gerritsen as well, Allen and Gerritsen, and what you've done and what your previous obsessions have been. So why don't you give a rundown of, what you've described to me as probably maybe the best job in the world, maybe the second best job in the world. Talk to me about what you're doing there.
My job is to run a group called the Digital Incubator at Allen and Gerritsen, and it's a group about what's next. We're charged with keeping our clients and the agency ahead of the curve from a technology perspective. So if there's a cool technology out there, we have to be the ones who are looking at it and And so part of my job today was just go through every technology at TechCrunch Disrupt, and I haven't gotten very far through them, but I mean, looking at things like Shaker and Tonara and Farmigo, which I think is pretty darn cool, just to see if those have any impact on our clients. And Farmigo may, because we have a grocery store client who sells produce, and this Farmigo, what it does is it kind of it takes the grocery store out of the mix and helps you find places to get vegetables from local farms and stuff. So that could cause problems for them, or it might create opportunities. Who knows? But so yeah, that's my job. I mean, it's a pretty cool job. I got to tell people what I think. I've got to create strategy, and then we have to actually build stuff. We've got this this team of people that actually takes some of these ideas and builds products. And our agency is about breaking the agency model and changing it up for a new age.
I love it. I love it. So when you go and take that job that you think is the number one job, let me know when this one opens up, would you?
Yeah, the number one job, I think, I always joke with Seth Prebatch that I think his job is just a tad cooler than mine, maybe. But
well, he gets to wear the shades, right? Well, not even wear them. He just gets to put them on his head.
He's building a game layer on top of it.
Exactly.
And it is awesome. So, I mean, Seth is great. If you haven't seen Seth Prebatch's TED Talk, and I'm sure you have, I would just go to YouTube and look for Seth Prebatch TED and watch that. It's after this, of course.
Right after you finish this.
Brilliant. I mean, the kid is wicked smart.
Well, he was one of my very first interviews or episodes for Untether.tv, and I was absolutely blown away by him. And to this day, I think he was just 20 when I sat down with him, and I was just about to hang it up. I was going to go actually become a grocery clerk right after. I said, if this guy, I mean, it's like I had aspirations of being a musician, a recording artist, until I walked past a guy who was doing it on the street who sounded better than I could ever sound in my entire lifetime. And that's when I threw away the guitar. So that guy's on the street, man, I got to go find something better to do. And I was 39 at the time. So this was the second alternative to that, right?
Meanwhile, it was Johnny Marr, and he was just he'd just come over for the weekend, and he just needed something to do, So he was in disguise. You didn't know that, but it ruined your dream. Kind
of looked like Bruce Springsteen, but I had yeah, I wasn't sure, but I like to think that it was, because that's the only thing that would keep me down. So you do this full-time on a day-to-day basis. You're exploring this technology, which is probably absolutely one of the coolest jobs ever. And but somewhere along the line, you became obsessed with location-based marketing. Mm-hmm. Is that obsession still there, or have you passed that when you got it out in the book?
No, I think there's still an obsession about location in general, and the things that location can do, and the things that we can do if we know location. And it's not just that location is the holy grail or the magic bullet or the one thing that you have to do to sort of save your marketing, or if you just do one thing, just do something with location. I wouldn't say that. It is a piece of data that enhances everything else that you do. Yeah. And the ultimate convergence is like this convergence of social and location and commerce, I think. So we saw that early on. In fact, a friend of mine, Gregory Yang, and I, back in 2002, we sat in our office and talked about what if we knew where people were, and could we build something like this? Could we build a database that could compete with like an Axiom or be an add-on that an Axiom could buy from us?
Right.
And our model was, we'll go through the carriers, we'll go through like the Verizons and the Sprints of the world, and we'll build the service through them, and and in order to get people to do it, basically give us their location whenever we want it, so we could build this database. We would pay their phone bills. Oh, really? So you'd get a sense of, and then we would take surveys of them, so we could get like the social. It was before social media was big. I mean, this
social
was
media, yeah.
Before social media was social media, and people were still really guarded about their online personas, and at some point that just went right out the door, right? So that failed, obviously, and we didn't even know that Dodgeball existed at the time, because Dodgeball had been, like, Denz had been doing his thing for quite some time. But it was a fun experiment. It was a total failure, but that was sort of my first obsession with the power of mobile and the power of location, and it hasn't left. And so when when Bright Kite came onto the scene,
Yeah.
and we first found out about Bright Kite, and that people were, checking in and attaching pictures to their check-ins. I was like, why would people want to do that? Why would they want to actually physically opt into doing it versus just have it happen for them? And
Yep.
I guess what we came up with was, what if the precision of it's not very good. The precision of your GPS device still isn't. It's not phenomenal yet, to the point where if, like, say, the Puppy Palace is right next to Porndemonium,
I hate when that happens.
What happens if you go in, you were in the Puppy Palace, but it accidentally checks you into the other one? That could be bad for you.
Divorces everywhere. Yeah, yeah. But that's, I mean, it's an obsession, right? Location becomes that because you saw that spike of Foursquare and Gowalla, and I think we're still seeing, everybody wants to get into the check-in game, but a lot of companies have gone past, or a couple of companies have gone past the check-in right now, and as a movement. But you saw that it was people started doing this for some reason. People started giving up their location for nothing, giving up a little bit of their identity or their a little bit of their, their privacy for absolutely nothing at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was for nothing. It was because they wanted to tell their friends where they were, and that was it. And it was because that had become really boring in Twitter. Remember when Twitter initially was, I'm taking the dog for a walk, or I'm
having bacon for breakfast.
I'm eating bacon. I just drank some orange juice. Stupid things like that, kind of.
You're not supposed to do that? Wait.
Well, you can.
Okay, well, I just got to change my whole persona then.
Twitter's evolved, right?
Yeah.
And the people that are more popular on that are more interesting than just talking about that sort of thing. So that said, there was still a need for that, and there was a need to capture it semantically so that you could do something interesting with it. So that you weren't saying, okay, I'm at Allen and Garrettson, which it could be misspelled, or it could be A&G, or it could be n number of other ways that it could be expressed. It was, this is the Allen and Garrettson that I'm at, and the one that everybody goes to, just this one block, and we call that organizing things semantically. You had asked a little bit about my background, and I have between 10 and 13 years of data warehouse experience in my background. So for me, technology is all it's all about the data, and the web is just this big giant database, and mobile is just another extension of that. So I always think about getting things into the most the best possible format for analysis that doesn't kill flexibility. But flexibility and analysis are enemies.
Absolutely. But you're right. I mean, it's not an exact science yet. I mean, location has gotten much better. But why do you think that it's so important? I mean, we agree on this, but for those people who just kind of are on the fence about why location is so important, I label it kind of location as dial tone. It's just, okay, location is there, now what can you do? But why is that so important to marketing, to sales, to anything?
So many reasons.
What a dumb question, Rob. Come on.
No, it's not really a dumb question. It's just there's so many different right ways to answer it, and knowing where a person goes, and knowing where they go, and then comparing that with what they actually do there is really important for you as a marketer, because it just gives you a sense of how that person likes to behave. And as a marketer, one of the things that you're trying to do is to either modify or encourage that behavior to continue to happen. And if you let's say location and commerce. Let's say that I go to the coffee shop every day, and let's say you're Starbucks, and that every day I go there, and because you're Starbucks, that I pay $5 a day for coffee. Like I spend, I buy this. I'm a fancy guy, and I have to have a soy latte every day with caramel. So that part, but if you don't know more about my location, you don't know that I also go to the mom and pop bakery that's like a block away every day to get some of their baked goods and I spend another $3. So you don't know that my size of wallet every morning is actually $8,
and you're only getting 5 or
that
3.
you're only getting 5 of it, and that if you could spend 50 cents or $1 to earn another $2 from me, and then make another $1 in margin, that's really valuable information. But if there's no chance of you getting another cent from me, and I'm already a loyal customer, there's no reason to kind of interrupt that by trying to get me to do other things.
Right.
Because I'm not willing to spend any more money. I mean, you can try it, but it might annoy me.
And then it'll turn you away.
Right.
In theory. So that kind of thinking, which is I'd say a little bit more advanced, I'm being polite, than what we're seeing in the marketplace right now. Am I right on that, or am I wrong on that? Because right now it seems like it's just everybody blasting messages, not tailored. It doesn't matter if you're a customer for a day, a week, a year, or a minute, you're going to get a similar message, right? Do you see anybody doing this right?
Well, it's not that people are doing it wrong. It's just that you're right. It's not as advanced as what we're talking about right now. And there's the stuff that I'm talking about, and this is the stuff that we dream about as potential. Now, that said, there are a lot of brands who are getting people to follow them on Foursquare, and they don't know this, but the fact that you do have people follow you on Foursquare means that you can see a lot of information about them. You can see where they're checking in. You can see their Twitter handle. You can see a lot of information through the API. And damn, if that wouldn't look great in a social CRM database. If you could figure out what we're doing for some of our clients right now, and is we're trying to get to that next level with people. So we have an offering that we call social CRM. We have a product that we call WaveWorks that can work with either as a standalone CRM system, or it can work as an add-on to another CRM system, so they can work together. But the thing that we're working on building into this is social integration. So basically every person is layered now, and the world is layered, and people are layered. So let's talk about people being layered for a second first. If you looked at me and you say, all right, the person that you're talking to right now that's like real world IRL Schneidermike, but there's also other layers of me. Twitter Schneidermike, there's Facebook Schneidermike, there's there's Schneidermike.com, the blog, there's my Foursquare persona, there's my Gowalla persona, and there's my Xbox persona, there's my World of Warcraft character. Those are very different personas, but let's say you had access to all of those, and you could bring those all together, and then funnel it into one person, a profile of one person. We call that the truth. Okay, so you've got one source of the truth, and that's what we're trying to do with social CRM. So it's call center Schneidermike, it's conversations in Twitter, conversations on Facebook, Foursquare check-ins, blah blah blah, all that stuff put together into a model that allows us to build a profile.
And then what will that allow? Because you can slice and dice that data, you're looking for commonalities, you're looking for patterns among people, you're looking for, the mortgage company does this already exceptionally well. To basically, from the moment you sign, the way you sign your signature pretty much on a mortgage will tell them whether or not you're going to default in a number of years, or just how many years down the road, right? So is that what you're trying to do? Is it profiling, or is it so personalized, the profiling, that it's a nuance, or how does this shake?
Well, we're kind of trying to figure out how it's going to shake, but it's at the first thing that we've seen is that knowing all the different touch points is really interesting. But I guess the way that we're going with it initially is to help inform content strategy, and to help us to figure out the kinds of content that we're creating, and the cadences that we're using with people, the things that we're talking about, and we're trying to figure out, what does our customer base or our prospect base actually care about, and do we care about the same things? And if we do, how can we kind of align our brand with our content, with the things that they care about, and see what happens from there? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's not a lot of exact science around this right now, but there is, we do build these content matrices that are based on content categories and channels and brand initiatives and any other things that we have that will try to impact certain kinds of behavior, which is the metric. So you try to optimize against those behaviors, which are discover, engage, and buy.
Yes, in that order. Well, hopefully in that order. I mean, do you think this is just out of curiosity? I mean, serendipity, which is a great happenstance. Like you're walking down the street and you walk past something in the window, it catches your eye. It's a shiny harmonica. It's a guitar. Serendipity. Do you think that that what we kind of do with all of this is that we apply such a mathematical equation and we strip it down to the numbers and then you kind of lose the serendipity that might happen, or do you try to enhance the serendipity?
Well, I gave a talk at Where 2.0 last year called "We Are Killing Serendipity," and I couldn't be happier. Yeah. And so I think about this. And
we didn't even plan this, right? Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you. We didn't plan this at all. This is serendipitous. That we're talking about serendipity.
It's
serendipitous.
Like, it's a super loop or something. But go on.
It's a question that I actually asked Marissa Mayer of Google while she was on stage at South by Southwest if technologies like Google Hotpot were killing serendipity, and she didn't think so. In fact, she thought that, and I tend to agree that instead of old style serendipity, we're starting to replace that with what we call manufactured serendipity. So being able to pre-discover awesome things doesn't make it less awesome when you actually experience it in real life. In fact, it allows you to focus on more of the minutia of the experience, more of the instead of trying to figure out, okay, what's the whole experience going to be and how's it going to happen and how should I do it correctly and how could I have done it better. It allows you to go in with a plan of how to execute initially and then focus on and kind of ensure that you're going to have a good time, but then tailor it to your needs as well. So if somebody tells you to go to a specific restaurant and ask for Dave the waiter because he knows everything there is to know about every kind of wine and how to pair it up with your meal, and then also have the peanut butter haddock. It's better than anything you've ever had. You won't even believe it. So you go in, you get Dave, you have the peanut butter haddock, and then you start to experiment a little bit. You tweak the experience, and then you add your lower level nuggets to the stuff that the person initially told you, which are like, hey, I had the wood-fired peas to go with it. Those were not even on the menu. They're special, but you can get them anytime you want. So add that to this, and then that makes it even better. But you still discovered something. Right. You just pre-discovered first, and then you discovered something new. So it doesn't actually kill serendipity. It manufactures it.
I mean, it's a great observation because how many times have you, I do it all the time, and sometimes I'll use Foursquare, sometimes I'll use Koala, I'll be sitting in a city that I don't know, on a block that I've never been at, and I'm starving, or I want something to do, and I go in there and I use somebody else's reviews and walk into a restaurant. So that is discovery, and that's really where mobile is very, very effective. Location and mobile are so effective. And then you do add that social layer on top of it, and it's a discovery to me. But I've seen this happen even locally, in my own city, in my own country, where you were literally discovering things out in the wild. But I just hope it's not like you're walking down the street and they sense you're coming, and that it's manufactured, as you said, manufactured serendipity. That the one thing that I want is in the window next to me. But I suppose that's where it's got to be. It's got to, it's going to come to that where product display and products in a window are tailored exactly to kind of who the person is looking at it through the screen, right?
Yeah, I think about that sort of thing a lot too. But my biggest use case and application is with your car. I hate windshields. I hate looking down when I'm driving because I want to have my eyes ahead. But I think that I always picture these augmented reality dashboards to the point where we've got all our content tagged, and we could make the world a much more beautiful place if the signage and all that kind of stuff was actually was actually augmented in our glasses or on our car windshields and our dashboards versus, and we could turn all that stuff off and we could just walk down a quiet street without all the advertising, or we could turn it on if we wanted to. If we wanted to, if we wanted to have the sort of fully digital experience, it would be kind of interesting. And then, obviously you could have your GPS built into things, and you could, if you wanted content to come at you, you could have, that kind of experience come on your radio, or you could have you could drive by stores and you could look at the stores and you could see potential deals that would interest you before you drive in or whatnot. But
that's the perfect world, isn't it?
I think about stuff like that. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's true, because you look at this canvas that is kind of unpainted, right? Which is your windshield. It's like, what a waste of that. I have a truck, so it's a waste of massive space in front of you, and you're like, there's got to be something that you can do with that. And I'm not talking about looking down on my GPS on my tiny iPhone that's attached to my lighter, outlet. You're right. But we're miles away from that kind of mobile vision, and I don't think you'll ever see those, that advertisement disappear on the side of the road. But it's in stark contrast to the kind of the title of the book, which, right, location-based marketing for dummies.
Right.
So. That's what we call a segue.
That book.
Nice.
Right there.
There
These guys wrote it.
Yes. So why? You have. I asked this question in an episode of location-based marketing this week in location-based marketing with Asif and Asif Khan, and you were kind enough to respond to this question in a post. I said, well, why do this under the dummies banner, and not do it kind of that kind of thinking? The future forward thinking about saying this is how, you built a brand in what you know and what you talk about, but you went with the dummies instead of thinking about 5 years, 10 years, 20 down the road, years down the road. This is what it's going to like. Be like, why go that route with the dummies?
Well, I mean, first of all, Aaron and I thought that Aaron Strout, who's my co-author, thought that the industry needed a primer, and that this would be a good way to get that out there. We've read a bunch of dummies books. I learned Unix with the dummies books, so I'm like forever indebted to Wiley for publishing Unix for Dummies way back when. It was a difficult mindset to get into because it wasn't the kind of topic that it wasn't the kind of voice that either of us was used to using. We were used to using, we're used to telling people how to do the what's now, but we also like to think, pretty far out. And this book kind of dialed that back a lot. There was a lot of future forward kind of stuff that we wrote into it that was actually, this isn't for the dummies crowd. So,
yeah, you had to forget what you're thinking of and go back to that moment of excitement when you first realized, and then you had a kind of a tempered voice on top of that says.
And I wish I would have thought of it that way when I was writing it. I didn't think of it that way. No, we just thought of the things that made that it's a marketing book, so we tried to think in terms of what disciplined marketers would want to know. When they pick up the book, what they would want to get out of it, just to get themselves started. And then the book is designed to get you some quick wins, but also to encourage further conversation. It's a 100-level course. It's not a 400-level course by any means. Yeah. Another thing is Wiley has a great distribution. They have a great reputation. Neither of us had ever written a book before, so we both wanted to write a book, and they came to Aaron and asked him if he was interested in doing it. And so we kind of took it as a sign that maybe we should try to write this book. And we took it as a challenge too, because again, it was a different kind of voice. We hadn't written a book before. We hadn't worked together before. We took it as an opportunity to work together, and that's kind of why I think we went down this path. I'm glad. I mean, the book turned out, I think it turned out great. A few crazy things happened on the way, like Facebook killed Places, although it's not dead, right a couple days before it actually got out there. And so So the challenge is to see how long it's actually relevant, and so far it's still pretty relevant. There's some great tips on how to get started in it, and there's some interesting stuff on measurement and analytics, and it tries to take you from inception of the idea, choosing your platform, inception of an idea, why you would do it, some ideas about what to do, and then choosing a platform or building your own thing, and then measuring the impact of it. So,
so it covers quite. I mean, yeah, it is. Soup to nuts, but at that 100 level, right? But it does. What I liked about it though was very clearly that it's not just about what we saw during the last year, which is this rash for couponing without a lot of thought put into the coupon, right? The material impact on your business when you put out a coupon or something like that. There's got to be some way of measuring this and consistently measuring and adjusting and tweaking and doing all those things that you do. But you talk about analytics, which is very important, and because it's an emerging market in an emerging market. That's what analytics is. And you break it down into a very fundamental steps. Like, it's a 10-step process. Is that you got 10 steps in here or 10 sections in here that actually draw attention to the key things and the key companies that are doing those things right. Was it hard to structure that way, or did you just think linearly, like, okay, I don't know anything, start with this?
I never think linearly, but luckily Aaron can.
Good.
So,
Yeah.
But the irony is that I wrote the initial table of contents. So I told Aaron I wanted to take a stab at it. He said great. So I wrote the contents. He wrote the first chapter, most of the first chapter for our sample chapter. So we did a lot of divide and conquer in this book, and it was the kind of thing where we put down the key things that we wanted to take care of. We would collaborate on whether we thought that was everything. We'd add some things, we'd take some things away, and then we actually divided the book up into pieces and said, I'm gonna write by X date, I'm gonna write these 3 chapters, and you're gonna write these 3, and then we're gonna go back and look at them, and then and make sure that we're on the same page. And we'd have daily conference calls. We'd have daily Skype sessions. I actually tried to use version control, like Subversion, to keep track of the book at first, but we quickly realized that was overkill, and we threw that away and just used Dropbox to collaborate. And we did some Google Docs stuff too for chapters that we actually wrote together, which wasn't very many, but there were a couple that we actually wrote together to try that stuff. I mean, again, new authors hadn't collaborated before, but
never worked together before. Yeah, it sounds like a dream right here, right?
It was pretty rewarding. I mean, we have very complementary styles. We're very, very different people, and we attack a lot of problems from different angles. And Aaron's a super duper social guy. I'm more socially awkward, and he's like, he was already an established public speaker, and he was already out there, from a social perspective, and he's got a lot of really cool mainstream ideas that work in the mainstream, and a lot of the stuff that I think about is very much in like I think a lot in extremes, and so it was great to be able to. And not that he doesn't do that. So if you looked at it you look at we come from different angles, but we also have a lot of things in common too. So we understand where one another's coming from, and it worked out really nicely.
It was like a common ground that you could land on that fit both, I guess. Is that?
I'd be curious to see him come on your show and have you ask him from the same these questions, some of these same questions, and see how he answers them, because I suspect you'd get pretty different answers.
Well, that's a great thing about this is that, but there's there's got to be a common ground so that you can talk up here about the industry, and then somebody can talk about feet on the street, ground level, how to do it. But at some point they've got to kind of reach a middle ground so that people can actually action on them, and it's actually something that can get done.
And the other thing is that the industry is so huge and there's so many technologies out there that we'd come to meetings and I'd be like, have you tried have you tried Forecast Ditto and Zarly? And he'd be like, have you tried Alfred, Trover and I don't know, something else. And I'd be like, yes, no, yes. And he'd be like, no, no, yes. And so we push each other in that respect as well. And I think we got a better book as a result.
Well, so how long just out of curiosity, I mean, how long did it take for you guys to write the book?
It was, we started back in April, and it came out, it got into stores in September. So
wow, that's fast though.
It was pretty fast. It was a pretty quick turnaround. Fast. I saw a lot of 3 o'clock in the morning. A lot of the book was written on planes. Yeah. Between the two of us.
Just the reason I ask is because it's like I guess my worry with this, as you saw, is like Facebook Places kind of they didn't kill it. It just became ingrained, right?
Right.
But when the technology changes so quickly, you don't want to see something take a year to write, because then you have to go back and revise that, because so much. I mean, this industry changes overnight, doesn't it? And the idea that it takes a long time to write a book, I guess that's part of the challenge, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it's part of the challenge, and it's part of the fear. It's just like anything, though. You put something out there, even products. When you put a product on the market, especially like computer products and phones and stuff, they're obsolete as soon as they come out. So, because somebody's thinking of whatever that next thing is, and that's the challenge in this industry, and that's why we wrote a marketing book. That's another good reason to write a dummies book, is because the basics don't change, the foundation doesn't change, the marketing discipline doesn't change, even though the technology does. So even if, like, say, Whirl is dead because it's been bought by Groupon, there's still something out there that's similar, and doing and the metrics of the campaigns are still compelling, because Murphy USA did some great campaign with Whirl, and they saw the average customer spending twice as much as the average Whirl customer spending twice as much as the general average customer, and they came back four times more a month than the regular customer. And so that's still really interesting stuff, because it says that this stuff works. So even a little history lesson on some of this stuff isn't a bad thing.
Well, I don't think so, and certainly that's right. I mean, marketing is a discipline; it's a science, and it's also an art. And this is for them, it's just another avenue. For me in the mobile space, this is a complete paradigm change, and it's the way our life is going to change as a result of mobile and location and social and combined. But for marketing, it's just, I got to know what this channel is. I got to know whether or not I find somebody to implement, but I got to know, and that's what I love it. And I guess it's so daunting to step in if you're a marketer and you're looking at location-based marketing. You're like, oh God, as you said. I've done 30 minutes of research, and there's 38 companies that do these things, and I don't even know where to start. And that's where I found, when I work with clients, they don't even know where to start. So it's like, okay, read the book. At least read the first chapter. Get a foundation, and then you can feel a little bit more confident about choosing the right tool for the need that you have, right?
Yeah, I think, the book's, again, it's meant to be a primer, and that first chapter gets you kind of into why you should do it. And I'm happy that you're giving the book to your clients. I hope that,
It's a Bible now. Right? So here, okay, before we even engage, just read the book and then understand where it is that I'm coming from. Because if you don't, well, it's going to be a really hard conversation to have. I mean, I gotta ask, when you... I interviewed Chuck Martin, who wrote the Third Screen, and Chuck is he's an accomplished guy. He's written like 7 or 8 books, and he became obsessed with the mobile industry, like just completely obsessed. And so he did a lot of research on some of the companies, and he said that he bumped into surprise after surprise after surprise, things that he thought he should know but didn't know, and things that people were doing that he had no idea. Was there anything that, while you were going through this process, was there anything that you looked at it and said, oh, that's surprising to me that I didn't know that, or this has to be in here because it's going to blow somebody's mind?
We tried not to do too much mind blowing in the book because they wouldn't let us blow a lot of minds. But we did manage to get some pretty cool future forward thinking stuff into the book, like Ditto. Have you seen Ditto?
Yeah.
All right. So just for the people who haven't, Ditto is basically a system that allows you to share an idea and basically that you want an intent that you want to do something and the place that you are. So it automatically attaches some kind of location to the fact that you want coffee or you want pizza or something, and it captures that idea semantically, unlike Twitter, which, you know, there's so many different ways to express that you want coffee. I want coffee, I want jet fuel, I need to refuel, I need caffeine, I need to be caffeinated, whatever. But this is very specific and also has a location attached to it. So all Ditto needs is one big company, like say, I don't know, maybe a local pizza place like Papa Gino's or Domino's or like even Naked Pizza, to just start monitoring one small area and start giving away pieces of pizza for free and just say, come on in, we got a free piece of pizza for you. Yeah. And people will start using it. I think that it's kind of like Uber for businesses that have Slack space or want to try to bring people in. I actually interviewed
Yuri
Engstrom,
about Ditto in May, and really thought that, I mean, he's got the pedigree, obviously, he's an inventor, right? So love the technology, but that it's one of those things that are it's like Twitter was when you started. Why would anybody use this? But now all of a sudden, hopefully people are looking at services like Ditto and thinking, and Local Mind, those guys, and thinking, okay, I'm starting to get it now. So that was one surprise.
Forecast obviously is another one that's pretty awesome.
Which one?
Where Forecast, I don't know if you've tried Forecast yet, but it's built on top of Foursquare. We just had those guys at GOM. In fact, Yuri was supposed to be at GOM, which was our event yesterday in Boston, to talk about the future of the space. But we had Forecast, which is again built on top of Foursquare, and it, instead of telling you when you check in, it's where you're going to check in and what time are you going to be there. So you tell people where you're going to be. So that again creates awesome, awesomeness for businesses. And what the cool thing about it is that
I love that
you can forecast. So pick this app up, you'll love it. So Asif's on it. We were using it in Boston. You can forecast where you're going to be. It'll automatically check you in on Foursquare when you get there. Actually, it asks you. It says at 1:30. If you forecasted to be in a place at 1:30, you'll get a notification that says, "Are you there?" And then if you say yes, it'll check you in, and it gives you a Foursquare-like experience too. So you don't miss your points, you don't miss your badges, you don't miss any of that stuff. And then now, have you used Busy?
Yeah, I have used Busy.
So Busy's the checkout tool, right? Yep. That basically wants you to, when you leave, they want you to. When you leave a place, they want you to check out and tell what you thought. So
leave a review. Yep.
They recently just announced Foursquare, tighter Foursquare integration, where after you check in, an hour later, it will remind you to check out. Nice. So you've got a full loop. This is where I'm going to be. I check in, and then you check out. So it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet, and they're getting to a point where it seems a little bit more natural, because forecasting where you're going to go, you can do it when you're in a more private setting. You can. It's not like when you walk into a restaurant. Oh, excuse me, I got to check in, and you turn your back on everybody. You do the 6 or 8 or 20 steps it takes to check in. With forecast, it's like you can do all that. You can pre-plan it all. Yeah, and then it helps you check out. So it's pretty cool. I
love the marketing opportunity around that, and and I think that's one of the big things is making sure that these establishments or these companies are looking in the right place for these kind of tools. Because if I say that I'm going to be at Papa John's or wherever it is in an hour and a half, there's a huge marketing opportunity either to sway me away from Papa John's and over to Papa Joe's, right? Or when I land there, what's that?
Yep, exactly.
Or when I land there, to be celebrated, or something happens as a result of that, because I've broadcast the fact that I'm going to be there, so
Right.
a reward or something. Yeah. So I mean, when you look at all of these things, and you brought up Uber, and I'm a big fan of companies like Get Around, and the excess inventory usage model, where like Airbnb, those guys. What do you see as kind of, you've got the long-term vision where every screen is engaging, and but what do you think is next here beyond this kind of check-in economy where location is now dial tone? And now, what do you see that's happening that you get excited about? So we've talked about guys like Forecast and Busy and Ditto. Is that the very next stage, or what else is out there that gets you excited?
I get excited when I start thinking about intent-based stuff and trying to change a person's intent. And so
behavior manipulation.
Yeah, you could put it that way. Or it sounds so icky, but it could.
I know.
Here's what I'm talking about. So I think that Facebook built places so that they could bring semantics to all the different location data that they're getting. So, and they also kind of wanted to prove that people wouldn't check in just for the sake of checking in. I mean, their business model for places, that Facebook Deals integration, was just a big Charlie Foxtrot.
Yeah.
And it felt like the wild, wild west. And I had this argument just yesterday because someone was like, hey, you're not looking at Facebook the right way. And I was like, I am looking at Facebook the right way. There's no repeatable service. There's no business model. It's hard to get analytics, all that kind of stuff. And yes, I do understand that that it has more eyeballs than potentially more eyeballs than anybody, but no one, people aren't using it. And like, it's the most check-ins. It's not the most check-ins.
Yeah.
But what I see is that people are relentlessly pushing their Gowalla check-ins, their Foursquare check-ins, places that have gone on Yelp, their Yelp content, and now they're allowing you to add, to attach a location to a status in Facebook.
Yeah.
Where you are right now it's important, but for Facebook, it's more important, I think, for them to know everywhere that you've been than where you are at a certain time, because what I think they can do is start to give you suggestions for what you might want to do during a day based on what they know about you. Because again, it's that whole social location and commerce conversion that's coming together. Conversion that's coming together. Nice redundancy. So Facebook nobody has more social and location convergence than Facebook, right? Maybe people might argue that Google has it too, but not in quite the same way. So
no.
So Facebook could build just ridiculous profiles of people, and you could get basically an idea for your whole day from Facebook, based on things that people like or what your friends like to do. So you go to a new city and you might say, hey, Facebook, I really need to know what to do today. And they'll say, well, based on what you usually do and based on what we know about this city, here you go, roll it right out for you. And it could be in a search fashion, it could be in a daily email, it could be on the fly when you need it. It could come in so many different ways. And I think this is what technologies like Alfred are trying to do. Have you seen Alfred yet? Yeah. Alfred's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Busy's also trying to do, and Where is trying to do, but nobody has more data than Facebook. So,
but that's
I think that's what they're actually trying to do.
Like a company called Siri does, right? Your personal assistant, where it adds that kind of synthetic knowledge on top of your social sphere, we'll say. But boy, oh boy, that's quite a that stream becomes so important to Facebook, and it's being fed by everybody, isn't it? Not just through Facebook. So that's a pretty powerful thing.
It's the most addictive, it's the most addictive social network ever. It's
yeah. Do you think they it's not a winning and losing proposition here, but when you survey the companies that are in this space, from Google to Facebook to Foursquare to, Gowalla, I think we could do an entire episode on that as a case study, Gowalla. and everybody who's touching all the new companies that are touching this sphere are they all still figuring it out, or do you think that, look, the master plan's been laid, Facebook really has the best opportunity here, or is it Foursquare? I mean, do you have a sense of this now?
Well, there's not going to be one winner.
No, there can never be. No.
But I like the way I still like Foursquare as the platform, the one to beat, because they've mastered the consumer model. They've mastered the ability to take features of other applications and bring them into theirs. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, but Whirl had the Explore feature way before Foursquare did, and they just had a different kind of implementation of it. And I remember at GOM1, which was a year ago, next month, having Jeff Holden and Dennis Crowley sitting on a panel, and Dennis saying, "Well, we're going to have this," and Jeff's like, "Yeah, but we have it already," and those guys just kind of scrapping, and it was awesome. But because the thing is that Foursquare has they're very good at development. They're very good at creating these new features, but they also understand and from day one have had the desire to be a platform play,
right, and
the desire to be a company that allows you to do your organization to do cool stuff with or without them.
Yeah, yep. But have them involved in a way, right? Because of their data and because of their, they've just been the platform, and they seem to have moved into a discovery phase, right? Which is it's about the check-in as well as it is about discovery, right?
Yeah, I think that the check-in right now I'd declare them the winner of the check-in war unless unless Facebook decides to get their act together and get back into it, but. Yeah. I think they're the de facto standard for checking in. I don't think Facebook really particularly cares. They're just going to allow you to attach location to their status. They'll be as powerful as ever. Yeah. And I think that they're going to continue to build interesting ways for people to discover, explore, and then also get people to pay. Although I don't know, what do you think? Do you think Foursquare will ever become like a digital wallet, like Scavenger kind of has with Level Up?
Well, I think that it's a good question, because Foursquare has the ability to do that.
I'm asking questions now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you turn this on me, but Foursquare has the ability to do that clearly today, because they can influence a decision. And but I don't know if it's about them taking enablement of payment, or them just taking a piece as a referral fee, and that's where I struggle. I think there are some digital assets. Like for me, it's about expiring inventory. Like, this is where I love this technology. Is that I'm sitting at Times Square for some reason. I need a place to eat. It's 5:38. First flip for the dinner has gone through. There's an empty seat somewhere, and it's about that empty seat having my name on it. And how do you convince me to go there? And if Foursquare can enable that, they deserve a piece of that transaction. You know what I mean? Or if there's a ticket for a ball game or a movie or a show, how does Foursquare enable that to come to the forefront so that I can buy it and then proceed into the show? Like, expiring inventory is always intriguing to me, because once that movie's played, once that restaurant has flipped, you'll never get that back, that opportunity to sell into it. So I think that they have an opportunity in that exact space.
I wouldn't put it past American Express to buy Foursquare either. No. Those guys have been collaborating a lot lately. They seem to really like each other. I mean, it's interesting because, there's a whole privacy issue, but if American Express owns Foursquare, then you basically open yourself up to American Express being allowed to know everything about you financially and from a location perspective. It just gets crazy at that point. It becomes super powerful. And that would be a pretty amazing experience. Although they seem to be doing okay with their partnership right now. And American Express seems to be running off and building a bunch of their own stuff, like their Smart Deals engine and things of that nature. But That would be a pretty interesting partnership.
Well, I thought about that, or a carrier, right? AT&T or somebody like that. But even Ticketmaster, and that's what I thought when Foursquare got into the venue check-in or the location. I mean, not just the venue, but the event check-in. It's a pretty powerful tool as well for something like Foursquare. For something like Ticketmaster, for example, and because that's a massive market unto itself. But man, you know what? I was looking here at this, Mike. I haven't even asked you a single question off of the agenda that I sent you. We're almost an hour into this thing.
We'll have to do another show.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We're all under time constraints, but what I want to know is where can people find you now? You know, aside from on those 9 platforms that we've discussed. But where should I direct people to?
I'm pretty easy to find. It's easy to find me on Twitter at Schneidermike. I've been increasingly using Google Plus because I really like Google Plus. I like the threading. I'm having a really good time with that. So g+.2/Schneidermike is my
nice.
g+/to is my g+.to/Schneidermike is my Google Plus account, and I'm having a pretty good conversation there. And Schneidermike.com is my blog. Aaron and I, though, also have location-based marketing for dummies.com, and that's where we do a bunch of blog posts there, and we've got LBM for DTV as well, which
saw that. That's great.
We've got an 8-part series that we're running on Josh right now.
Nice.
Josh from Gowalla.
I love it. Oops. Well, say hi. I root for Gowalla, right? I root for Gowalla.
I'm a fanboy. I think I was one of the first people who was just so gaga for Gowalla, gaga, Gowalla, whatever you call it.
Gaga, Gowalla.
And I've been recently, Josh on the 12th, on 9/12, announced that they're changing Gowalla to be more of a storytelling engine, which is interesting because that's what World 2.0 was, and then they changed to check-in. So I've been saying that I've got Gowanification and things like that because I want the thing to come out, but Josh hates gamification and all these buzzwords, so I've been using them just to kind of razz a little because I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it.
Oh, well, I was one of those guys. I followed Gary Vaynerchuk into Gowalla and loved what they did with the New Jersey Nets and the virtual currency and the virtual tickets.
That was cool.
And thought, oh man, that was the first time that you saw something like this. It was so great. And but then I've just watched this steady kind of. They took that, which they, I don't know, they did a great job of marketing that, and it kind of, took their differentiators away, and
I
kind
know.
of like, oh, and then every time they made
Turns out
an announcement,
that was just an experiment. The whole virtual items thing was an experiment. It was really hard to implement. They didn't see it as part of their long-term vision, and it's actually going away.
I know. It was disheartening to me. Anyways, we can do a show on. I can't wait to see this, and so that's at location-based-marketing-for-dummies.com.
Right.
There's so much, Mike. So much. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. But of course, there's always the book. You want to hold that up again? This is available everywhere. Amazon.com, Barnes and Nobles. It's available here in Canada. It's just go and buy it. It's on the
Is
Kindle,
it in Canadian? They transferred it into Canadian? That's awesome.
There's a lot of A's in there.
I didn't know.
A. It's like location-based marketing for dummies. A. Up here in Canada. And go to Schneidermike.com or find him on Twitter at Schneidermike. Now you know the reason why it's Schneidermike and not Mike Schneider.
Right.
And to Mike Schneider out there, he is the Tony Hawk thumb.
Hawk your boarding, man. The kid's awesome. Hey, Rob, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm a big fan of you, and I'm a big fan of what you guys are up to, what you're up to, and I really like the show that you're doing with the CEF, and hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to my co-author at some point.
I will.
That's really interesting.
Definitely will. Listen, Mike, thank you so much. I've been speaking with Mike Schneider from Schneidermike.com and at Schneidermike, and the author of Location-Based Marketing for Dummies. And this has been another episode of Untether.tv. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.